But welcome everybody. Be sure to hit the like button. Be sure to hit the subscribe button.
I remember in middle school when you felt self-conscious if you were the last one to go through puberty. That really went topsy-turvy, didn't it?
Sometimes the Hasbara, it's too much explaining yourself and it's too apologetic.
Be sure to hit the notifications bell.
I actually do believe Israel won't just bomb countless civilians.
Be sure to tweet this out. Be sure to put this up on your Facebook.
You have to be kind to people. Be kind to the guys in this mess in the first place.
Put this up on your Reddit.
Chile is a country.
Be sure to cut and paste, a link to this to go into your favorite Facebook chat group.
It's good to see so many normal people in here.
Now, spanking isn't just my deep, dark personal secret. It's America's deep, dark secret.
I've never seen it explained so simply anywhere.
Put this on WhatsApp. Put this on Telegram. Put this on your favorite messenger app.
Hello and welcome to the Untitled Anarchist Seagull channel, where all the bourgeoisie's chips are belong to us. I'm your host, an Untitled Anarchist Seagull called Elise. Hey, Badger. What, have you been traveling? My body clock is basically never really in sync with whatever my time zone is. I'm nocturnal. So, I had, over the past, on and off, people have asked me to do some stuff like related to Ethan Klein, and I've always been at a bit of a disadvantage because the fact is I'd never heard of the man, and I wasn't really quite sure. I hadn't found any really good Filth Dragon content. Well, I hope you had a good trip. My recommendations yielded something that, unlike most of the time when I actually have never seen the thing before that I'm reacting to, I actually did catch a little bit because the Surfs did a reaction to certain parts of it, but you may have seen that Ethan Klein did a content nuke of Hassan Piker, but from what I saw it was actually more of a content nuke of Ethan Klein. So I was thinking we could do that or continue with the extremely long and uninspiring Caleb Muppet video marching toward liberation. But first, as part of my occasional anecdotes to just kind of how fucked up everything is, well, we've been looking at porcupines, but I was reminded recently of a creature you may never have actually heard of, though it was briefly a meme creature. So I was thinking, why not have a look at the Baluchistan pygmy jerboa? That is, well, there it is. But wait a second, this image quality is shitballs. Is that as good as it gets? Oh, pity. Those legs are just so comically mismatched to that body. It's like this little mouse is on skis. Like a little ski feet.
وبسرعة قد تضاهي سرعة الثعلب يستطيع اليربوع والقدمين أن يناور الثعلب ذا الأقدام الأربعة.
This is apparently National Geographic Abu Dhabi. And my Arabic isn't quite good enough to
لكن
understand.
خطر الموت ليس مقتصرا على الأرض فقط.
I need to understand what the narration is saying. Ooh, an owl. Yes, if I were that little mouse, I would turn around too if I saw an owl.
إنه البوم الفرعوني حاكم سماء الصحراء يتفحص ما حوله جيدا لإيجاد فريسة سهلة
Oh, please don't tell me
بمساعدة
that
الرؤية الليلية المتطورة
ski mouse is
فإنه
about
يستطيع الرؤية في الليل.
to get
لقد اكتشف شيئا.
I see. I didn't watch this, and I'm really hoping that my antidote doesn't involve the
ضباع
cutes.
مخططة.
Oh, the African painted dogs. I've seen
ليس
those.
هذا ما كان يأمله.
Yes, a
عليه
big-
مواصلة البحث.
Strigo?
ها هو فأر الأشواك.
Okay. I was really hoping that my cute animal video was not going to involve the Baluchistan pygmy jerboa getting eaten by an owl. So I appreciate that if that happened, it didn't happen on film, because it would really kind of defeat a little bit of the purpose. What is Strigo? So, I was thinking we could check out this Ethan Klein attempted content nuke of Hassan. Oh. Oh. I thought you were saying where you'd been traveling to or something. A complete lack of context error. Sí, escribo. Okay, so we can plod towards liberation with Caleb Muppet, or we can look at Ethan Klein content nuking himself, or we could do maybe a little bit of both. They're both fairly long. What's everyone think? How's everybody doing? Oh, nothing to be sorry about. It's just how my brain works. See, it's a content. You can tell it's a content nuke because there's a radiation counter sound. That's how you know that what's going to be seen is going to be really, really radioactive.
The world would not be the same. Few people laughed. Few people cried. Most people were silent. I remember the line from the Hindu scripture, the Bhagavad Gita. Vishnu takes on his multi-armed form.
Oh, not at all dramatic here.
And says, "Now I am become death, the destroyer of worlds."
We think the Houthi Ansarullah is doing what the Houthi shut on
Fucking leftist, why would you pick those? Why am I held accountable? God forbid you throw up the fucking Green Hamas banner.
See, I mean, what's particularly wild about this, amongst other things, is that if you look at the other, like, these content nukes, this is a thing that he does. And virtually everybody else that I've seen that he's done them on, I've not watched them, but I was looking when I was looking for this video. It's like complete sleazebags, like fucking Keemstar and shit. And
Happy birthday to you.
I'm
All
good,
together.
I'm
Happy
good.
birthday from Twitch, Hassan. Happy birthday from Twitch.
it's so radioactive. Yes, why are you making this? And how will it discredit you?
Oh, hi there. It's me, your old friend, Ethan Klein. It's been a while since we've last spoken. In that time, I've had 3 kids, all boys. I've lost 100 pounds, and I've pissed off 75% of the internet. Probably a lot of you guys do.
Talking about there at the NRA meeting that's today in Texas. Someone should buy.
Oh yeah, and I got a tattoo also, so I'm cool like that now. Left or right, I always thought that, despite our differences, there was one thing we could all agree on. And what was that? That we love America.
Like, the thing is, this looks like he's being ironic, But I mean, I have seen a little bit of this, and let me say, he's not being ironic. He is going to do the full-on fucking McCarthyite thing.
And everything she stands for.
Really, everything.
And apple pie.
Sure, there's plenty
A
to
little bit of genocide, imperialism thrown in for good measure.
criticize and endless things to improve, but I thought it was about making a more perfect union, not tearing it down.
Marching bands, a pride that only
The thing is,
Jesus.
there's something kind of scary, brewing
What is this fucking thing he's got in the background, though?
in America. Communism.
You see, you think he's being ironic. He's actually not being ironic.
That's America to me.
Like, what the heck? I feel like I remember seeing this a very long time ago, but whatever the hell it is,
I started to show
blessedly forgotten what context I saw it
a
in.
couple of years ago with my acquaintance, Hassan Piker. You might remember him from such classics as
America deserved 9/11, dude. Fuck it, I'm saying it.
Yeah, kill them. Kill those motherfuckers in a video game. Sorry. Holy shit.
Which motherfuckers? Like, I mean, that is not a particularly... That quote, oh, that's only a fucking damning quote if you say which motherfuckers it are. Which motherfuckers it are?
That's not what I said, you dumb cracker bitch.
and of course, The Leftovers.
Oh, he's doing the white nationalist thing where we pretend that a lovely thing to have with soup is some sort of a slur in a in a wonderful sort of reverse racism sense.
Podcast, which was our show, which we made broadly to goof on the antics of the right. Now, to be clear, I knew
The antics of the right.
about all these edgy and controversial jokes at the time we made the show together, because who am I to judge?
There was Ethan Klein being a delightful human being.
I was just gonna say, if there's another Holocaust, if they start rounding up the Jews again, I hope Ben gets.
He presents himself.
Well, yeah, I mean, and I will have to say, it's like, that is edgier than just about anything. That is like low-key more problematic than just about anything of what I saw maybe 10 minutes of this thing. It's an hour and 43 minutes.
As someone like me, a left-leaning Democrat who supports basic things.
Yes, we will see that Ethan supports things that are very basic.
And we went on making the show for about 2 years, and everything was good. Everyone was having fun. The audience was having fun. No problem. That was until this happened.
We were doing our regular show, and for the first time I noticed an inordinate amount of radical, hardcore leftists. I mean, I thought we were social democrats, not whatever this was.
I don't hate the idea of like people who can be successful. I think it's good that people can achieve success.
But like, what the fuck? Yeah, but what the fuck does that even mean? In fact, I mean, when somebody tries to make like, class struggle about like being against success in the abstract, that's always just a sign that a good take is incoming.
In the term monetary success, I mean, that's what that means, right? I do. You know, there's nothing wrong with that.
Well, like, it depends on what you mean by monetary success and at whose expense it is. And that's kind of the whole point, is that maybe the fact that monetary success is really kind of the deciding factor between like being able to live a reasonably good life and being like constantly fucked or just, you know, dying of starvation and exposure, suggests that maybe that's kind of a fucked up way to organize a society, though.
I see so many people in the chat saying no.
I don't know what y'all are tripping about. Like, what the fuck do you
What
want?
is the idea that
you guys
people
like
are
just-
looking for?
You guys are all like radical communists?
Yeah. What, you got a problem with that?
There's that many radical communists? Suck it, chat. You're watching a capitalist pig. Deal with it.
And then this happened.
This comment from Hassan really started to sound some alarms in my head.
If you're in a socialist country with multiple parties, and one of the parties is a capitalist party, which would surely exist.
Yeah.
What would you do if that party started gaining momentum?
The solution to that would always be education.
Okay, which is not like that rings alarm bells, because I mean what he's saying there, as I understand it, and he takes this completely out of context, so I'm going to put the context in that seems to make sense to me, which is if you've got a party that is trying to, you know, bring back a system of exploitation and oppression, and it's gaining momentum, that sounds like maybe people are being deceived by it, and it would be important to help make clear what these people actually stand for.
And offering more
re-education?
Re-education, certainly, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, see, notice that Ethan throws in the word re-education. Like, not re-education camps or any of those things, just like what he said is education, which doesn't involve, there's nothing inherently carceral about what he actually said there.
There should be an enforcement mechanism, and in that enforcement mechanism, I think like rehabilitation, which would include re-education as well.
Like, and I feel like there must be something missing. I mean, obviously there's a lot missing because this is the middle of a discussion, but an enforcement mechanism for what exactly?
Putting capitalists in re-education camps isn't disturbing enough. I started to notice that Hassan was carrying a lot of water for communist states' war crimes and genocides.
What do you call Crimea? I call it a part of Russian territory, bitch.
Like, what communist state? We're talking about Russia. And considering how well it actually the annexation pulls in Crimea, like there is polling data on this, like since the vote was bogus as fuck, there wasn't an option to maintain the status quo. The vote also had serious legitimacy problems since it was done under military occupation. But when you look at the polling, yeah, I mean, it's like 80% of the population would like to keep things the way they are now. And so out of the ones to just outright reject and say that it is completely beyond the pale to like trivialize it or whatever, that it doesn't seem like a good one, because I mean, if you've got a situation where most of the people that are actually kind of okay with it, then it sounds like maybe it worked out, even if it was illegitimate in origin. And the thing is, a lot of things are illegitimate in origin, like that America thing that he was like getting so fucking misty-eyed about a few minutes ago. That's pretty fucking illegitimate in origin, but you seem to think it came out pretty well. So you're familiar with the concept, Ethan.
That's what I call Crimea. I call it Crimea River, a Russian river.
And like Russia was not even pretending to be a communist state when that happened. So what the hell does that have to do with anything?
Annexation of Crimea is absolutely a justifiable annexation. Tibet was literally a fucking feudal.
Well, like if you want to make the argument that what he said there was bad, you need to actually include the bit where he says why it was bad. I mean, why it was justifiable. Because if what he's saying is, it looks like people are actually quite okay with it, judging from like public opinion polls, then I mean that's a reasonable thing to say. I think it's certainly at the very least not some sort of gotcha thing where you can say, oh, this guy's absolutely, completely beyond acceptable discourse or something like that.
Slave mandate, like
so
autonomous zone.
China did them a favor.
That was one. I mean, in America.
I mean, notice each one of these is Ethan putting words in his mouth. Like what he's saying here is that I mean, Tibet, before China took it over, was run by a feudal slave system, which was known for some absolutely off the hook kinds of torture. And it's worth noting it took a while for the Dalai Lama to just come out against slavery, and even beyond, and even just the idea that maybe the place should not be run by a feudal aristocracy that he happens to be the titular head of.
America, when I say something like this, people get very upset. You know, we talk about the Dalai Lama saying "suck my tongue" or whatever, but like that's not far from the norm in fucking normal Tibetan existence before the Communist Party came in and took over.
Yeah, I mean, so you can actually, it's like, you don't have to actually like every single thing that the PRC has done in Tibet to say, actually, that was probably an improvement. And it seems like a lot of people in Tibet actually agree. Like, from what I've seen, the overwhelming view is, on the one hand, it would be good if the Dalai Lama were allowed to just return safely without, anything happening to him. But on the other hand, they don't want him fucking running the place. They actually have gone off the idea of a feudal aristocracy.
Unilaterally took over Tibet, squelched their culture. They basically are trying to, homogenize the culture.
If you're called...
I mean, that's true. They are trying to homogenize the culture. But what's also true is that sort of a takeover would, okay, let's just take an example. Let's just take an example that we could be talking about right now because it's been in the headlines, where Trump was talking about taking over Gaza. Now, imagine what happens if Trump actually tried that. He's walked back the idea of sending troops because somebody sat him down and pointed out what would happen to those troops. Because the thing is, there's no way that anyone in Gaza would actually put up with that shit, and anyone who tried it would eat rounds. But that does not really seem to have happened to a great extent in Tibet, which kind of suggests that maybe a lot of people were actually kind of hoping that they could somehow, were okay with the idea of not being under the thumb of the lamas. I'm not an expert on the subject of Tibet, but I mean, what I have read does kind of suggest that at the very least, people were not dead set against the idea of getting rid of that system.
Culture.
They're trying to swell the religion and the identity.
The part of feudal warlords and slavery, abolishing that. Yes, I do think that is good.
No, China.
Yeah, oh wow! You got him, Ethan. You got him. He's against warlords and slavery. He's for the abolition of warlords and slavery. Wow, a fucking nuclear take right there.
Did them a favor.
This is a good way to describe Taiwan as well.
Which was for quite a long time, until very recently, a fascist dictatorship propped up by the U.S.
American federal government going into the fucking South and killing, unfortunately not all of them, but a decent amount of slavers and defenders of slavery. This is violent retribution from a powerful federal government that squashed. Okay.
Tibet is the South.
Well, in the sense, Ethan, in the sense that that it was a slave society, yeah, actually.
The Civil War?
Yes.
And most disturbingly, a complete whitewashing of the Chinese genocide against their Muslim minority group, the Uyghurs.
Don't they have Uyghur death camps? Is that?
No, they don't. What they had, and it's bad enough, without I mean, one of the things I have to say, I'm not really a fan of Bad Abdadda. He said some really kind of seriously dodgy stuff, and he opens his mouth on stuff he doesn't know anything about. But his thing on Xinjiang was really good, because one of the things that he points out when he's sifting through all this propaganda from the Victims of Communism Memorial Foundation, dodgy motherfuckers who consider every Nazi who got killed in World War II a victim of communism. And I think every abortion as well, I seem to remember. And he points out, if you just go by what China themselves said about what they were doing and what the purpose was, that they were openly just admitting what you could call, what would be reasonably called a cultural, a Populist bedeutet nichts. Also, das kann alles sein. Also, mein Hund da oben könnte ja auch Populist sein. Das ist ein völlig sinnfreies Wort. Aber sofern es darum geht, ob ich der Ansicht bin, dass Hassan und Cenk in diesen Fragen übereinstimmen, also ich habe eher den Eindruck, dass dass sein Onkel jedem Nazi in den Arsch kriegt. Das ist der Eindruck, den ich der ganzen Sache abgewonnen habe. Yeah, I mean, so what he points out is that if you just go by what China themselves admitted, you know, you do have what could be reasonably called a cultural genocide. It's certainly called that when you have like so-called residential schools in the US and Canada. But actual death camps, there's never been any evidence of.
It's not a death camp. They were re-education.
Like, I have to point out this video is very recent. Like, he's not saying this early on. Like, Ethan is not using this clip early on as, years ago when this stuff was just first really being discussed, and there hadn't been time to sort of sort through the available evidence. He's doing this like in the past few weeks, at which point this is not an unreasonable thing.
And they are no longer in operation.
Is that
according
true?
to the Associated Press?
Okay, I saw this crazy documentary, and I don't know. I don't know.
Well, yeah, okay. You yourself are okay, Ethan. If you yourself are saying, "Well, I saw one documentary and I don't know," if that's like the strength of your take at this particular time, then maybe this isn't a particularly damning thing that you've just quoted out of context.
I don't know the surrounding narrative or anything about it, but it was about there was doctors in the area. They would be able to procure.
Oh God, yeah, that's right. This is bullshit. This is the Victims of Communism Memorial Foundation together with fucking the Falun Gong anti-science, anti-gay, racist cult. Like, I mean, literally just about pretty much anything you hear about, like organ harvesting in China, from like political prisoners or whatever. Yeah, it traces back very quickly to Falun Gong and the Victims of Communism Memorial Foundation.
Organs.
No, no.
I'm telling you, they were in China with.
Dog, that one is like Shen Yun.
Like,
yeah, no, he's absolutely right here. He is 100% right.
Get you an organ. From a Uyghur.
Yeah, well, yeah.
But why is that? Is that really that crazy?
Yes, actually, it's complete bullshit.
Associated Press quietly fucking wrote an article that didn't get a lot of coverage in mainstream media about how, like, okay, well, all the concentration camps have been closed now. Like, all the re-education camps are closed now in fucking Xinjiang, and it's like very different vibes in Xinjiang, and now it's the tourism hour.
Let's see what the Associated Press actually had to say about this. These are all AP articles from the last 2 years. UK independent body.
What? Oh no, the UK independent body. So that's Jeffrey Nice, this independent tribunal assessing evidence on China's alleged rights abuses. This is Jeffrey Nice. This is Falun Gong and the Victims of Communism Memorial Foundation. Whatever you find Jeffrey Nice, that's the outfit he's with.
Body reports.
I mean, to be fair, I do not remember the AP article that he's talking about, but this is bullshit.
China committed genocide in Xinjiang. China sanctioned a U.S. research firm and 2 individuals over a report about the human rights violations.
Which research company and which individuals, though?
In Xinjiang.
It's the tourism hour.
To China's fury, UN accuses Beijing of Uyghur rights abuses.
Tourism hour.
Uyghur County in China has the highest prison rate in the world.
Actually, the highest prison incarceration rate in the world is the U.S., Ethan.
World. 1 in 25 people is in a Chinese prison.
It's the tourism hour.
48 Uyghurs detained in Thailand for almost 11 years are on hunger strike to protest their imminent deportation to China, where they face imprisonment or execution.
Not only does this AP article seem not to exist,
Well, are you saying that those are all the AP articles that you found in a 2-year period on a subject that was really heavily covered for a while? Seriously? That was 3 articles. Now we're on to BBC News.
Reading the AP proved exactly the opposite. Hassan has happily eaten up the Chinese propaganda on this and has regurgitated it to his mainstream audience. Why is he defending China's genocide of their Muslim population? How does this even make
This is 2025. At this point, you can say, definitely, there was not a physical genocide. There was a cultural genocide. That is bad enough. I don't see the reason to actually go beyond that. And also, Jeffrey Nice is a dodgy motherfucker.
Makes sense. It only makes sense if A, he's being paid, or B, he has the political complexities of a
Well, he is being paid by his fucking viewers.
5-year-old. I know America Bad is a meme that people laugh at on.
Okay, this is just... The people who deride the idea of America Bad in this time in history are really I mean, it's interesting how none of them will try to make the case for America Good.
Online. But with Hassan, this does actually seem to be the beginning and the end of his analysis.
2 principles. Let me explain to you. 2 principles that you should keep with you, coming from a person who's Turkish, okay? When you look at a situation in the Middle East, you look at what the local government is and who the Western forces are.
That is... Sorry. That is absolutely a good starting point, actually. Because you generally will find the U.S. against any kind of, like, democratic development on the side of, like, the most reactionary forces in the area.
Never align with the Western forces. So when I look at other countries, I look at the regional act.
I mean, this take aged really well, Ethan, actually. Because look at what the Western forces have been fucking doing for 15 months, Ethan. And I do happen to know we're coming back to that.
Whoever the regional power player is, and then I look at who is backed by the Western superpowers. That's a principle that you could take home with you if you want to actually be moral or if you want to be smart.
I mean, it's the start of an analysis. There's more to it than that, obviously, but it's not a bad, like, early warning system.
About the way you analyze other countries, that's one basic principle that you can take home with you.
Hey,
all of a sudden, magically, you are above on your foreign policy analysis. You're going to be better off than 90% of people that look at the situation.
Oh, well, okay, so Ethan, you're saying that he's wrong to suggest that the U.S. has generally been on the side of really fucked up shit in the Middle East, which is a really weird thing to be, like, opposing right now of all times. But okay, I mean, horses for courses and stuff. Oh yeah, this is an Ethan Klein content nuke. It's a self nuke. Un autogolpe.
After seeing all of this, I was
And let's remember, like, if you look at this fucking the text on the left of this, let me see, how big is it? Can you? Yeah, that should be readable. It's talking about how the U.S. started a war with Yemen over their sanctions against Israel because that they had started doing sanctioning Israeli shipping over the genocide. So, like, that is what he's specifically talking about here.
Already getting uncomfortable with our partnership.
This is a weird thing to be getting uncomfortable over.
Started to wonder if I had any idea who this guy actually is.
And then this happened.
We have breaking news out of Israel this morning where Hamas has launched a surprise attack within Israel's borders overnight.
After the shock of October 7th.
Now, let's just remember again, I have to just point this out. This isn't something that this isn't a narration that Ethan did back in like October 2023. This is sometime in the past couple of weeks he put this shit together.
I noticed a huge increase of anti-Semitic comments from Hassan's
Like what? Well, give me an example.
stream and Discord, including from his head mod. I was disturbed that Hassan...
Then you should be able to show us some. Like, I thought this was going to be a content nuke. Nuke us some content. Put it in the microwave. Show it to us, Ethan.
Was seemingly okay with this.
Because, I mean, the trouble is, and I hate this, being myself affected by anti-Semitism because I'm Jewish, I hate that I absolutely cannot just take it as read when somebody says some anti-Semitic shit went down or didn't, because the thing is, the term has been so completely trivialized and so completely distorted that it has it is used in situations like 90% of the time when I see it in the media. It has absolutely nothing to do with anti-Semitism. Oh, here's some anti-Semitic content, apparently. Hassan is looking at a video, a Jewish demonstration against the genocide in New York. Wow, that's terrible. That's very anti-Semitic there. Wow, fucking gotcha. Fucking got him.
And you do you care that your chat is calling me racist? Do you
Wait, that's the anti-Semitism calling Ethan racist?
make any attempt to modify?
I have not looked at my chat.
Moderate that
I
at
have
all?
not looked at my chat.
Look at how fast his chat is moving, it's worth noting. I mean, how is anyone keeping up with that fucking chat?
At all, but you
I
have
just
to
opened it, but don't you have moderators? Do you care at all about what your audience says about
there's
me?
32,000.
Well, I mean, maybe you should reflect on the fact that somebody said you said something racist and maybe consider that maybe that you did.
1,000 people in here right now.
I'm just trying to tell you guys how it feels. And I'm fucking shocked that you don't care that people in your chat are saying, who the fuck is this child, cold, arrogant,
Ethan,
as fuck.
I love you, but there's only so much I can do.
How can you be surprised when you're
I love you, but
I'm just trying to tell you guys how it feels. And I'm fucking shocked that you don't care that people in your chat are saying, who the fuck is this child, cold, arrogant, as fuck.
I love.
Oh, well, he's calling him an arrogant Zionist fuck. Like, again, I mean, that's not anti-Semitic. He is Zionist. He is arrogant, and he is a fuck.
But there's only so much I can do.
How can you be surprised when your Discord is literally full of fucking?
Ethan, I love you, but there's only so much I can do if you're making that argument. You know that, right? Like
Hassan's chat.
Well, okay, that's a very interesting thing. Ethan, why didn't you tell us what the argument was that you were making that he's referring to? Okay. Oh, here we go. Comrade Corndog says Ethan is a left-wing grifter Zionist. Fuck his content. I mean, where's the lie?
Had been calling me a Zionist, baby
But you are a Zionist.
killing genocider.
You have been kind of defending the genocide.
Maybe it is unreasonable that I'm
Just because you're racist. Hassan, condemn this, bro. Condemn this, please, bro.
asking him to moderate his chat for a friend. He doesn't even know where I'm coming from because it's not something he would ever ask for.
And all these other content creators actually, whipping their communities when their chat is going fucking absolutely bananas over random dumb shit and bringing my name up for no fucking reason. That you were just allowing that shit to run rampant in your chat, and I thought that was fucked up.
Okay, I don't know what he's referring to here. But I guess we're supposed to assume that it is an equivalent criticism to pointing out that Ethan is racist.
Ethan, I love you, but there's only so much I can do. Especially as someone who thought we were fucking friends. I think that's a reasonable expectation for someone who you consider to be a friend.
Well, I mean, I would have to say, if anything, it seems like maybe I don't know what Ethan was saying. I didn't watch any of these streams. I don't really watch Hassan, but I have a feeling that, given the shit that Ethan is saying here and the whole way he's doing this, if there was something actually damning, we would have seen it. He's put all this effort into the music and the dynamic zoom and all the cutting, which I can tell you as somebody who does this, it's an absolute pain in the ass to do this. It is much less of a pain in the ass to go back and find the bit that is damning. Because all you're doing then is watching and cutting.
The problem wasn't that he was pro-Palestinian, because I share a lot of those views, and a
lot of those views. That's such an interesting way of putting it.
I've been a stalwart supporter of the Palestinian cause for many years. Problem with
which Palestinian cause?
Hassan's coverage, and a lot of people like him, was their complete lack of empathy for the Jewish people who were frankly slaughtered.
To a significant extent by the IDF. Okay, at this point, there is absolutely no excuse for somebody not pointing out that the main targets that day were the Gaza division and multiple military bases belonging to the Gaza division. There's like no fucking excuse for somebody not to point out the mass Hannibal. I mean, Yoav Gallant, who was defense minister at the time, has now confirmed what like senior military officers had already been saying, which is that the order to kill Israelis rather than let them be captured came from the very highest levels. Like, so for him to be talking about this now without all of those fucking caveats, because let's remember, the stuff that he's clipping here is from the time. It's from before a lot of stuff came out.
By Hamas, he refused to show even a crumb of empathy for the Jewish victims.
Well, maybe you can show an example.
But listen to what this guy has to say.
And as you might have seen, there was some sort of rave or desert party where they were having a great time until the resistance came and
Well, I mean, and let's just say there's something a little bit fucked up about having a rave within, like, shouting distance of a fucking open-air concentration camp.
hang gliders and took at least several dozen hipsters. But I'm sure they're doing very fine despite what the New York Post says.
And it turns out, actually, I mean, again, first of all, let's remember, this is October 7th. This is from the day of. Like, the level of information that was provided that people had at that time, like, all of the claims of, like, atrocities and stuff like that came later. Somebody talking on October 7th, I can tell you, I mean, chat, you probably remember what was actually in the public domain. You had, like, the paragliders, you had video of people walking in the land that they had been kicked out of and being moved to tears by that fact. I mean, and you had some footage of Qassam fighters who ended up in people's houses and were at great pains to reassure them that they wouldn't be hurt. I mean, all the other shit, all the atrocity accusations that turned out to be actually complete fabrications or things that the IDF actually did to their own people, that came later. Somebody talking on October 7th was just talking about a very successful military operation against the fucking against the Gaza division.
But nobody had seen this coming.
Also,
I mean,
fuck the
that's
PSL,
insane, right?
actually.
I don't even. Yeah. Okay. Like.
Okay.
I don't.
I'm just criticizing people. You don't have to comment if you're not comfortable about it.
I honestly felt it time.
Well, I mean, what did he say, though? Like, what were you criticizing, and what did he say? Like, what's the point of even having that fucking clip in there? Like, I thought the idea of this, you're supposed to be nuking content. Instead, you're just kind of microwaving it.
Times that he and his audience barely thought of Israelis as humans.
But this dude just
Well, that should be really, really easy to show then.
called babies militants.
No, I understand.
Oh, okay, so Ethan says that somebody said something.
And there are baby settlers as well. But there are baby settlers as well. There are babies in the settlements.
Part of running.
Yeah, of course, the thing is, the reason that you put that in there is for people who don't know that actually all the claims about, like, beheaded babies were lies. That there was literally one victim of, not actually clear of whom, from October 7th, who was under the age of 3. I mean, which is horrible, let's be clear. That sucks. That is awful. But it's also not clear whether A, it was intentional, and B, who fired the shot. Because it happened in a setting of what survivors called insane crossfire. And the shot was fired through a door. So, like, literally, it's not clear whether anyone actually intended that shot to go where it did. And it isn't clear who it was. And that is literally the only case. But he's doing this thing as if we haven't already, as if we don't have full lists of everyone who died that day.
Defense for Hamas is downplaying the violence, specifically the sexual violence.
See, again, I stress, this is not he didn't make this in like November 2023. He made this just recently. And the prosecutor in charge of the October 7th cases in Israel, she said there are not going to be any charges for rape because after going through all the body cam footage, all the CCTV footage, talking to all the witnesses, looking at the forensic on all the bodies, they could not find evidence of a single case of sexual assault happening. Not only that, no living victim has ever come forward, so there's no evidence that there was any. So for him to be saying this is, I mean, he is, this is a content nuke, but it's a content nuke of Ethan. He's just doing genocidal propaganda. And he has no, he does not have the excuse of ignorance. He does not have the excuse of lingering doubt at this point, because the rug has been pulled out from under this shit.
Which he's done a lot of.
Doesn't matter if fucking rapes happen on October 7th. Like, that doesn't change the dynamic for me even this much.
Yeah, I mean, and what he's saying there is what he means by changing the dynamic. That, I mean, if that happened, which he's not actually even allowing as it did, and it turns out he didn't have to, but if, like, a lot of people who were, like, doubting, for good reason as it turns out, the, you know, weaponized mass rape propaganda from Israel, were willing to allow, maybe there would have been individual cases, because all sorts of random people got out there. There's a lot of fucking anger, and, you know, some people do fucked up things to express that anger, so it would have been entirely possible. So, but it turns out it didn't happen. But anyway, he's saying that it doesn't change the dynamic. The dynamic being that this is a colonized population resisting occupation.
So that's the other part of this problem that many people...
Sometimes, you know, that sometimes fucked up shit will happen alongside that. And that's still, you know, it's fucked up. But...
that can't contend with, like... The Palestinian resistance is not perfect. They're not, like, so good. They have magical bullets.
Why don't you let him finish that sentence, Ethan? It sounds like he wasn't done talking. Maybe it'll be more damning if we hear the whole sentence.
The Palestinian resistance.
I mean, and like he's so like cares about the victims of these rapes that there's no evidence ever happened on October 7th, that he's making a fucking joke out of it.
It's not perfect. They're not, like, so good. They have magical bullets.
Oh god, fucking screams without words. The most, like, discredited thing that the... Oh, here we go. Gal Abdusha's parents. It's amazing that they're still, like, that she's even mentioned in there, because her parents revealed that they had completely lied about it. That they actually knew for a fact that she couldn't have been raped. This, I mean...
It's not perfect. They're not, like so good.
Oh, and the confessions, it's worth remembering, as this Haaretz article points out, were obtained under torture, and so nobody takes them seriously, because you can get people, you can torture people into saying anything.
Good. They have magical bullets. Is not perfect.
Of course, if you compare the raw numbers, Gazans have lost a lot more than...
Lost. Well, maybe they'll turn up. I guess they must have misplaced them. Any idea? Maybe you can help them look for them.
Israelis. 40,000 people have died.
That is an old number. Like, the count was stuck at 40,000 for months because the health ministry couldn't keep up. Because the US and Israel kept on killing the people who work for the health ministry, and at the same time killing huge numbers of other people, so it was impossible to keep up. Just in the first few days after the ceasefire, it was already revised up like by 20,000 missing presumed dead, because they got huge amounts of rubble with people under them.
And neighborhoods have been completely flattened.
Not neighborhoods, but the point is, like, all the neighborhoods. Like, the entire fucking Gaza Strip has been completely flattened.
during this war. And while we should keep their plight at the top of our minds
Yeah, like it's very clearly at the top of Ethan's.
at all time, it also doesn't mean that we should disregard the lives of the Jewish people who are also affected by this, even if their suffering on the whole is not as great. Some of you may know that I'm an Israeli dual citizen.
I'm not. I have to say, I'm not shocked.
My wife is Israeli, my kids are half Israeli, and my entire in-law is Israeli. I lived there for 5 years, and I grew a closeness with the country. And
Yeah, it's funny. Like, a lot of people... I mean, if this was a thing that kept on repeating for a while a few years ago. I guess maybe Birthright has gotten better at screening people, but for a while they would have, like, young people going on these Birthright trips, and they would immediately come back and talk about how fucking horribly racist the place was. But apparently that didn't bother Ethan.
and its people. One of the biggest issues between me, Hassan, and his community was that I am in favor of a two-state solution, while
Which is to say apartheid.
they are in favor of a one-state solution.
Which is to say not apartheid.
Their theory is that after the October 7th attack, Israel should just dissolve its borders and...
Wait, so you're saying that before October 7th they were not in favor of a one-state solution, but now they are? That's kind of a... I don't entirely buy that that's how that worked.
and let Hamas enter Israel unrestrained.
Well, I mean, let's remember that they're not so much entering as they are returning to places that they were kicked out of during ethnic cleansing.
What do you think Israel should have done in response to October 7th?
Instead of indiscriminately bombing Gaza, I think the first thing to do in that situation would be to dismantle the government in the way that it existed, like get Netanyahu out of power.
Okay. So you're saying Israel in
85%.
response... Hold on, dude. You're saying in response to this terrorist attack...
I mean, it isn't... Like, by the normal legal definitions, no, it's not a terrorist attack. An attack by an indigenous anti-occupation resistance force against the military force occupying them is by definition not terrorism.
Israel should have dismantled their own government.
Well, yeah, I mean, they should have done that anyway. That doesn't become, like... It would be really weird to say after this genocide that suddenly they should not dismantle the regime. It's a racist regime. It shouldn't exist.
First set of actions would be to democratically take Netanyahu out of power. Yes.
The problem is that Israel's been at war with its neighbors for 70 plus years.
Well, yeah, isn't that interesting? I mean, it's almost as if Israel's kind of the fucking problem. I mean, Israel keeps on starting these wars with the people who've been living there all along.
And it makes a lot of sense that there'd be some distrust there. Is it really insane to think that Jews, as an ethnic minority in Israel, would not be safe? After all, Israel...
I mean, I think the problem... Why, instead of talking about speculation here, why don't we talk about how Palestinians as an indigenous population in their own fucking country are not at all safe and don't even get to have full fucking, like, the same, like, civil rights as
Israel is
people who just got there 5 minutes ago.
Country of refugees. If the Jews didn't come from Europe after the Holocaust, they came from the surrounding Arab countries that expelled them in massive amounts following the 1948 war. And
following is doing a lot of work here because it was a few years later, and also Israel played a major role in organizing those expulsions. If they weren't making deals to have the expulsions happen with governments, they were literally sending operatives into these countries to carry out bombings of, like, Jewish communities in order to create a panic. In fact, in Egypt, in Alexandria, they got caught. It was called the Lavon Affair. Two Mossad operatives who were going to blow up the synagogue in Alexandria got caught doing it, made a full confession. It was a huge embarrassment to Israel. Iraqi-Israeli historian Avi Schleim is also, in his memoirs, talks about how, yeah, actually, Israel definitely played a huge role in uprooting the Iraqi Jewish community, which is easily one of the oldest Jewish communities in the world, continuously.
In fact, there was more Jews displaced than Palestinians during the Nakba.
Not during the... Oh, wow, that is such a dishonest way of writing that sentence. Because it sounds like they were both displaced during the Nakba?
1 million Jews. All of these surrounding Arab countries had vibrant Jewish communities and huge number, hundreds of thousands. Now, if you look at them, you're looking at close to, if not literally, 0 Jews left in these countries.
Just to give you an...
See, and I mean, again, you have, like, this is just such a dishonest map. Because it uses 1948 as the baseline, when actually... Oh, okay, first of all, the map that he's using here does not agree with him. It says 820,000.
Idea. Here's a visual representation of the Jewish refugees after 1948. Morocco had 265,000 Jews. Now it has 2,000. Algeria had 140,000. Now it has about 50. Iraq had 150,000 Jews. Now 10. And I want to give a special shout out to my boy over in Afghanistan. One known Jew. We know him. We love.
Yeah, like, so what? Like, this... you're gonna try to treat... I love how he's like, oh, it's not like I'm trying to trivialize the suffering of the Palestinians, but, you know, the Nakba is nothing compared to an Israeli operation to induce a mass panic amongst Arab Jews.
Love him. He's the one Afghan...
And incidentally, a lot of things have happened in Afghanistan between 1948 and 2019.
And you.
They were forced to leave their homes, their lives, their property, and migrate to the only place in the world that would accept them, which was Israel. The irony of this whole situation is that after the 1948 war, when Israel won the war to declare its independence, the Arab countries got super anti-Semitic against their own Jewish citizens.
I mean, first of all, again, he's just leaving out everything that we know about Israel's role in this. And for another thing, it's like, actually, this is not a thing you want to admit. Because the minute you admit that this is a response to a colonizing power claiming to be acting into, you know, colonizing Arab land supposedly in the name of all Jews everywhere, what you're saying is that Israel seems to have actually made life very dangerous.
Citizenry that had nothing to do with Israel. And as a result, they kicked them all out, 1 million plus of them.
No, your map said 820,000.
And forced them to go the one place they hated the most, Israel. And now those same people that forced them out of their homes are telling them they don't belong there. So if the Jews
they don't.
of Israel are surrounded by Islamic militant terrorist groups that have stated their goal is to annihilate
this is also a lie.
Israel as a Jewish state.
Oh, that is so fucking sleazy. Because he didn't say annihilate, he says annihilate Israel, and then he pauses, as a Jewish state, which is another way of saying that it's not annihilating Israel, it's eliminating the inherently and explicitly racist nature of the regime. Because it's actually kind of fucked up that it's a state for only one ethnic group.
And considering the historical context of Jews being pogromed from Arab countries, is it really that crazy for them to not feel safe as an ethnic minority, even a little bit?
And that's pretty much...
Well, and why exactly should that trump Palestinians' rights to come back to their homes?
The entirety of our disagreement. Despite what you've read on TikTok and Twitter, I've donated $6,500 to a Palestinian charity after...
Which Palestinian charity?
The war started.
Hey, Ethan Klein, thank you for the dono. Ethan Klein gave $6,500. My goat. Thank you, Ethan.
Okay, so Ethan did one potentially good thing.
Netanyahu is a war criminal. They're led by Netanyahu, who should resign in disgrace and go to prison
The
for
thing
being.
is, this is so fucking cheap because the thing about, I mean, blaming Netanyahu is easy because it avoids blaming the regime. Because the war cabinet is made up of the so-called opposition too. Benny Gantz is totally on side with all this shit. In fact, Benny Gantz, the supposed opposition leader, actually also supported Trump's statement about expelling the Palestinians from Gaza.
Being a war criminal, called the West Bank settlements an abomination. Settlers in the West Bank are religious zealots, they're monsters, they're genocidal. I've even said the West Bank settlers are valid military targets.
When you talk about like colonial settlers and stuff like that.
Well, okay, so, what's your problem then? If you're saying that colonial settlers who are in a heavily militarized society are valid military targets, and let me just be clear, there are settlers and settlers, and I actually would put a little bit more gradation into that than he apparently is willing to put in there. But, I mean, a lot of them are, part of paramilitary groups, and, by definition, those are obviously valid, I mean, the Geneva Conventions was very clear, yeah. Yeah.
What's actually happening in the West Bank right now. And these people are more or less valid military targets, in my opinion.
My only crime is wanting a two-state solution.
So apartheid.
Instead of one, and thinking it's not okay to kill Israeli civilians. That's it. That's why.
Well, I mean, you seem to think it's okay when Israel does it, because otherwise you'd be talking about that.
They're calling me a Nazi Zionist, and because of Hassan and others spreading.
Well, yeah, I mean, you are a Zionist, though. I mean, if you're supporting one ethno-state, yeah.
This malicious lie about my beliefs. I'm even getting harassed on the street.
So how come you don't like Palestine?
I like Palestine.
No, you don't.
Why do you say that?
Well, I mean, yeah, the thing is, you don't get to say you like Palestine when you are specifically saying that it should remain occupied by a colonial entity.
Because, bro, you're... wasn't she in the IDF?
Yeah. Yeah, she was.
Oh, damn, that's crazy.
Mandatory service.
That's
She's born
sad.
there.
Well, yeah, except a lot of... I mean... shamefully few, let me say, but it's regular, a regular number of people refuse that mandatory service and go to prison rather than participating directly in the military occupation.
Terrorism, bro.
She was born there.
That's sad. Feel bad for you guys. Ethan Klein, bro, you're ugly as fuck, bro. You're ugly as shit. You look like a rapist, bro.
Look at the fucking...
You look like
I mean, okay, attacking somebody for their appearance, that's not cool, but I mean, other than
fucking
that...
rapist, Ethan. Feel bad for you guys. Ethan.
I mean, Ethan. Does it occur to you that maybe the reason people are criticizing you on the street for your shitty racist takes is that they heard the things that you're saying? That maybe the things you're saying are enough for people to be pissed off about? To the extent that, I mean, think about it. Hassan... worked together, co-presented a stream or whatever it was with Ethan Klein for quite some time. That's you'd be pretty close doing that. And you would probably feel, with somebody you're working together with, some inclination to defend them. And it would probably actually be really hard if you, especially, spontaneously, if you suddenly hear them saying some shit that you really have no defense for.
Bro, you're ugly as fuck, bro. You're ugly as shit. You look like a rapist, bro.
What, you think... Okay, you're gonna blame Hassan for that? How is this part of a Hassan content? That wasn't Hassan content.
I'm tired of all these coward Americans in the South trying to act like they're so tough. Oh, I'm American. Oh, you don't even run your own country. You don't run your own country, bro. You don't run your own country.
Okay, I mean, who is he saying does?
A foreign country named Israel.
Yeah, I mean, this is bullshit. I mean, and it's worth noting, I mean, if anyone has said a lot of this, it is Hassan's uncle Cenk. because Cenk does not want to get into U.S. imperialism. He's very much a supporter of the regime as a whole, and so it is convenient to make it about, like, supposedly Israel is somehow wagging the dog, than it is to admit that the U.S. has direct interests, the U.S. ruling class has direct interests that lead it to support murderous reactionary regimes in a strategically indispensable region.
Run your country. Oh my God, bro! I love you, Hassan. Can I give you a hug, bro?
I'm so sweaty, bro.
I love you, bro.
I'm so sweaty.
I love you, bro. I have to interview you. You're like my hero, bro. I love you, bro. You're the coolest guy in the world, bro.
Yeah, I mean, that was a shitty take.
Hold on, I think I look gay in that one. Hold on.
Okay.
It totally gives the U.S. a pass for U.S. imperialism to, like, claim that it's Israel
3, 2, 1.
that controls the U.S.
Hold on, I think I look gay in that one. Hold on.
Okay.
The funny thing about me, I don't like
I mean, the thing is, if Hassan believes that, you know what would actually be a shitty take that you could show Hassan espousing there? Is if he actually said that same stuff. I mean, it's easy to find his uncle saying that shit. His uncle says it all the fucking time.
terrorism, and I don't like terrorists. If they're Jews, Christians, Muslims, they're all bad.
Black, red, purple.
What is terrorism? It's intentionally targeting civilian population.
So then October 7th doesn't really count because the targets were military. Like, the actual intended targets were military. We have, like, the operational orders on paper leaked by Israel. And the goal was to take over military installations and capture senior military figures.
For political goals. I don't like it. None of it.
Really?
And over time, I started to learn that my co-host, he really likes terrorists.
They do musicals. They're very musical people.
Are you being serious?
Dog, what do you... Look! You think I made this?
This isn't music. I know they're singing, but I'm seeing this...
This is Yemen.
Guns and this isn't a music video, Hassan. They're taking over these ships. They started...
Well, okay, I mean, this is the sanctions, which actually are completely covered by international law, because it is cutting off Israel's supply lines until such time as they end the siege on Gaza and stop the genocide. Like, you're gonna...
Like, they started targeting the ships. People on this helicopter right now?
Yes.
They're streaming this?
Yeah. Yeah. They're flexing.
What? And they're coming in hot with guns.
Yeah, but you have to understand, this is
I mean, okay, Ethan, you want to talk about, like, targeted violence against civilians for political reasons? How about the U.S.-Saudi genocidal war on fucking Yemen for, like, a decade, which included a starvation siege, killed a whole lot of people. It's a big part of why Yemen is the poorest country in the region.
Deterrence. We think the Houthis, Ansar Allah, is doing what Luffy would do. You should tell him that.
Hezbollah is a paramilitary organization.
Do we like them or no?
I don't have an issue with them, let's just say. But they are...
Yeah, I mean, I've seen this quote before, and it's like... and I think I know what's coming next. I think it was Zanderhol used this. And it's
terrorist organization. Like, they're designated. They are designated by the American state as a terrorist organization.
Which, I mean, should mean nothing to anyone, because the U.S. can designate literally anything a terrorist organization. I mean, well, a foreign terrorist organization. That's the only one that actually exists in U.S. law. But it takes nothing. It takes no fucking evidence, and there are plenty of genuine terrorist organizations, like literal fucking death squads, not on the list because the U.S. arms them.
I do not like them then.
Well,
he is regarded as a pretty brilliant person in terms of, like, everything that he's done.
Then I saw clips like this where Hassan is explaining how he's hiding his power level to funnel in normies into radicalization.
I think that in the short term, in order to combat against that, you have to advocate for a much lighter form of propaganda. You want America in...
See, and I disagree with this, actually. I mean, I actually think that Marx had it right in the manifesto where he says, like, the communists sort of, they disdain to hide their objectives. Because I think I mean, the minute you start actually like hiding your power level or whatever you want to call it, then you are tacitly, you know, appearing to admit, you're going to be seen as admitting that there's some reason you shouldn't. That there's something like shameful about what you're doing. And that's bullshit. I mean, if you stand for something, fucking stand for it. The way you're going to get people to join in that, and who are not already on board, is to see people actually making the case for the thing they're for. Not people saying, oh, well, I just, all I want is like people to have health care, but otherwise, it should be the same. And then you find out later, oh, they actually want a revolution or something like that. I mean, that's not trust inspiring. Why is anyone going to respect that? That's just like
the way that I feel about it. And if you want America to get out of the way for places with more revolutionary potential to do what they would normally do, I think that, one thing you have to do is advocate for a lighter form, while simultaneously still doing agitated propaganda that goes beyond,
Oh, well, that isn't even what he's saying. He isn't saying, I mean, where's this hide your power level quote? Because what he just said is actually not that. What he's saying is that on the one hand, you say you have like specific things that you advocate right now, specific measures that you want to see happen right now, but at the same time you're advocating for the full-on thing. Not the same thing at all.
Right, it's a democratic idea.
I just wanted to put emphasis on the exact point of the so-called radicalization funnel, where, for example, Hassan and JT catch them while they're young, as they say, and then they start looking into this new idea, etc., and then move forwards through the funnel, get more and more informed, get more and more radicalized. You do your part in the funnel for the cause, or whatever the fuck you want to call it. You're doing, in my modest opinion, a great thing for the cause.
Now listen to Hassan during our very first conversation.
See, and I mean, my own personal philosophy, it's something I come by naturally, is not like to be the one who is sort of the low power level, or whatever you want to call it. I tend to prefer to be the sort of bad guy, the unreasonable one. So people who are still advocating, good, legit, good, like radical things that I would generally agree with, but I don't necessarily think go far enough, can look reasonable by comparison. That is kind of my role in discourse, I think, in the places where I'm participating in discourse, and I've embraced it. It's just naturally, I also disdain to stand for less than I stand for.
Lie to me about how he's a social democrat to hide his power level.
Well, it would be really, really damning, Ethan, in your content nuke, if you could find him doing that, and you could find him confessing that he was not at the time. Because here's a thing that people do, Ethan. You will find people develop politically, and so they may be a social democrat at the time you ask them, but then they keep on looking at what's going on, and what's going on radicalizes them, and they realize social democracy isn't going to go far enough to deal with the problems that we're facing. And then they say, yeah, actually social democracy ain't it. We ought to, we need like communism or whatever. Or, yeah. So, like, that isn't necessarily a lie. Like, I mean, that it's not a lie like the stuff you said about October 7th. That's, that's a real lie. Or at the very least, reckless disregard for the truth. Let me just put it that way. He may not have bothered to actually look into the factual situation.
Should move towards a Sweden-style economy or a Norway-style economy, which would be a social democracy.
You have to advocate for a much lighter form of propaganda.
Oh, well, yeah, I mean, but here, now, the thing about clipping somebody out of context, Ethan, the way that works is when you don't show the context as well, because you showed the context there. You already showed him saying the thing, and what he says is, you're not hiding the other stuff you're advocating for. You're advocating that stuff at the same time. you're advocating some sort of lighter version, as he puts it, at the same time as you're, advocating the full-on version. That's not the same thing. And even if you add a fucking reverb to it to make it sound like spooky or something, that does not actually change the fact that it's not the same thing. And this looks like old footage. Like, look at the image quality.
Robust social safety nets.
Cold radicalization funnel, catch them while they're young, as they say.
And protections for workers, like higher unionization rates.
A lighter form, while simultaneously still doing agitated propaganda.
Well, okay, fucking Ethan, I thought you kind of learned how to do this dishonest editing. The way you do the dishonest editing here is you don't include the bit about while you're simultaneously advocating for the full-on version of what you want. Because if you want to create the impression to your audience that he's lying to people and outright advocating lying to people, then you have to actually you have to leave out that other part. But instead, you just put the echo, the reverb behind that other part too, to remind people that he was never saying to lie. He was saying, like I think pretty much all of us do. Like if somebody says, what do you think about, like, what should they do about healthcare in the U.S.? Or something like that. And I mean, are you for single payer? I would say yes, and it's honest. Like, in terms of an immediate thing that absolutely should happen, single payer is an obvious fucking thing. That is not, it requires no thought. It would improve everybody's life, except for that of insurance companies, to no end. Like, I mean, but that doesn't mean I think that's all that should be done. But if you're asking me for, like, an immediate thing that would improve a whole lot of people's lives, yeah, obviously single payer. I mean, that would like save, I think, about 200,000 people a year at this point.
That goes beyond social democratic ideas.
Hell, he's proclaimed it loudly that he is a self-described propagandist.
Go.
What, you're not a propagandist, Ethan? I mean, what you're doing here is propaganda too. It is, what you're giving is, like, propaganda literally just comes from the word to propagate. It does not mean lying. Like, propaganda can also be bullshit. It can also be lies. Like, for example, what Ethan's doing is an example of bullshit propaganda. But propaganda is simply where you're saying, this is a way we would like you to think about these things. And you can be very straight up about it, and you can be completely factually accurate about it. What makes it propaganda is that you want it to be propagated. You want people to, you're trying to convince people that this is the right thing to do, or the right way to think about something.
I'm a propagandist.
Well, no.
For the record.
I'm not calling you
I'm a
that.
propagandist.
Yeah.
I'm just saying. I'm going to play you.
I'm saying I am.
Okay. Well, then I want to play.
Yeah, I mean, what he's doing, when he's saying this, he's obviously not saying it in the sense that this means he's lying. He's saying he has an angle on the world that he wants to convince other people is the right thing. That is the right angle to have. That's all. That's literally all he's saying.
I am.
I just
before
want to
you even play it.
A propagandist is much more than someone with a bias. It's someone who knowingly lies.
No, it isn't. No, it isn't somebody who knowingly lies. I mean, there are propagandists who do. The term propaganda is agnostic about whether the content of the propaganda is true or not. A lot of the most effective propaganda is effective because it's factually accurate and honest. The point is, it's trying to convince people of something. It's trying to persuade them to do something or convince them to think about something in a certain way.
To further their political agenda.
And then I had a terrifying vision. Had I been duped?
No, you hadn't. You were sitting next to this guy listening. I mean, a lot of these fucking clips that you've been showing that were you were sitting right next to him when he said this stuff.
Was Hassan presenting a Trojan horse to my community?
No, he was not presenting a Trojan horse. He like, the point of a Trojan horse is that you can't see what's inside. You have to bring it inside the castle walls, and then you find out what's inside, and you're probably not very happy about that. But what he's saying is, he says he advocates the sort of lighter thing but at the same time is also advocating the full-on thing that he believes in. That's not the fucking same thing as a Trojan horse. But what also isn't the same thing, ja, also das kann man wohl sagen. Sie haben Streit. Sie haben durchaus Streit. What also isn't a Trojan horse is the fact that it is already time to wrap up for this week. Thank you to everyone who came. I'm always happy to see you. I hope you enjoyed the stream, and if you support the stream, please, if you enjoy the stream, please consider supporting the stream if you can. If you can't, I would never want anyone to send me something that they would be missing. But if, on the other hand, you can and you want to, I always appreciate it. I'm going to drop a link in chat for how you can do that. Ethan doesn't understand a whole lot of things. Okay, but in any case, have a good night. I will be back at 11:30 p.m. U.S. Eastern Time on Friday.